Warning. The following podcast contains graphic language that Nancy Reagan and Tipper Gore deemed inappropriate in a civilized society. Maybe your kid should be outside playing in the sunshine rather than listening to adult language on a podcast. But hey, I won't tell you how to raise your kids. Religions and governments and vapid hosts of mainstream media opinion shows are better suited for that job, I suppose. It takes a village to wash your brain. Am I right?
We're here to talk about the political environment and kind of what it means. Some of us are going to have our own views. These are our private views, while all three of us are contributors to our voice in one way or another. Our views don't necessarily represent our voice as a whole, but we also want to make sure that you are aware that we do have a bias. Every person has a bias, and hopefully you'll know that we wear our bias on our sleeves. That way you don't feel like we're trying to deceive you in any way.
Hey, fuckers! How's it going? It's Jessie from the South, deep South.
Deep
South. Along with
Chris Guru, as always, way up in the cold and not so mild Maine.
Yeah, but at least Maine, you can smoke a bowl and not worry about going to jail.
You know, I actually did that yesterday. It was 420.
420. That's funny you should mention that, because we should have recorded yesterday, but shit came up and apparently some people got some stronger stuff than they're used to, so we had to postpone recording for a day.
However, my idiopathic back pains have never felt better.
Yeah, exactly. So how are your back pain's a lot better, is it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, see, the only thing I've got to mask pain is opioids and beer. So
that's not good.
Yeah, no, that's really not good. I can either take
Tylenols and we'll shut off your liver.
Who needs a liver anyway? So today, the big thing that I want to talk about is, because it was 420 yesterday, is now some people may know this, some people may not. Like we talked about a little bit before we came on here, was, Chris, have you ever heard of patent 6,630,507?
Wait, let me think about that. 7, you say? No, I have never heard of that patent. No.
So basically what that states is that the federal government, that is a patent number. They own that patent number, and this is what the patent number actually is. And it's CBD. And it's used to treat disease in the body, and usually brain, as far as Parkinson's, dementia, that sort of thing.
Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. You're telling me that the federal government already patented CBD?
The federal government right now has patent number 6,630,507, which actually it doesn't patent the whole plant, but it does patent quite a bit of the CBDs that are really, really good for. They quote it as antioxidant, but basically what it does is it stops or it slows the progression of dementia, Parkinson's, major brain disorders. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So basically the way it works is, right now as it stands, in 2003 they got this patent, and it expires at 4/21/2019. But before it expires, between 2003 and 2019, anyone who gets a license to study CBDs, to make oils, to do research, they have to get a license under that patent. And basically, any information that they come across, they have to pay basically a milestone payment, a percentage of a sale if they come up with a viable drug, as well as royalties to the federal government just under that patent. But this is the same government that says that marijuana is a Schedule 1 with no medical benefits whatsoever.
Whoa. Just to quote Mr. Sanders. Holy shit. Wait up. So not only have they put a patent on the process of many of the CBDs that are basically, you could practically call them cancer reversing.
Yes.
They're also going to charge you to use it, and they schedule the drug saying that it doesn't have medical use, and yet they patented the medical use of a portion of that drug.
Now, exactly. Now, Now, what happens is...
Pardon me, plant, by the way. It's not a drug. It's just a plant.
Exactly. Now, the DEA and the scheduling department are two completely different things. Now, because they have done basic research, they applied for a patent. So basically what happens is anyone, say a college or the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, because this patent actually bleeds over into the UK. So anyone that wants to do Parkinson's research and say CBD oil A, B, C, D, whatever. And the reason I say A, B, C, D is because all those cannabinoid oils will differentiate between strains. So if they find a new strain with a high THC or a low THC, but a high CBDA, CBDE, or CBDB oil, they will then turn around and start testing it. Now, for them to get that, they have to get a license under that patent number. Then they owe the government money, they owe the government royalties, and they owe the government a percentage if they become a saleable drug. But the federal government states that there is no medical value whatsoever to marijuana. That's what keeps it as Schedule 1.
Jesus
Isn't
Christ.
that a fucking kick in the balls?
Ain't that a kick in the head? Yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it's still listed as a Schedule 1. To give you a little flip here, California right now, you've seen some projections of like $1.1 billion. Realistically, the actual number that I've been able to come across for California legalization is $643 million. And the reason it's down a lot lower is because their fucking tax rate on medical and recreational marijuana is 34.5%, compared to Colorado, which is 15%.
Yeah, I believe they're in Maine. Once the law is completely in effect, I think it's going to hit 20% here.
Which is fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, but realistically, if you look at alcohol is taxed at a rate at 20 cents per gallon.
Ah, totally different beast.
Much different.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what happens is you get the federal government has maybe a little bit more of skin in the game of keeping it illegal, just for the simple fact that they can sit back and collect royalties on a licensing fee. And because these other companies or these other colleges are doing research in CBD, but every time they do research in that CBD, they now owe the federal government milestone payments, percentage of sales, and royalties based on that one goddamn patent. So my question is this. Now, I know it's not illegal to be a hypocrite, but if the federal government is making money off of a patent for medical use of marijuana, i.e. CBD oils and everything else, does that or does that not negate the Schedule 1 classification for marijuana?
You know, that sounds like quite the conundrum. I wonder if a lawyer would be willing to pick that one up and sue the federal government over... Actually, I'm not quite sure what they would sue him over. Being hypocrites?
It's not a matter of being a hypocrite. It's a matter... No. It is a matter of they've negated their own law. Simple fact being is they said it's illegal for this, and this.
Yeah, but like, how do you bring a criminal charge against the government for breaking its own drug scheduling law? I mean, and the patent was approved too. I really don't see how that one could ever be worked out.
You could probably do it under civil law.
Yeah?
I think realistically you would be able to do it under civil law. The civil fact is, in the federal statute, you state that it is a Schedule 1 and it's got no medical benefit whatsoever. So that being said, that you are denying me something that I could use to treat my depression or my cancer or my sleep apnea or whatever it is, and then turn around and state that under the civil law that you are denying me my right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So you're dividing, you know what I mean? So you could find someone, I realistically think, that would be willing to fight that.
Well, okay, so like a lab at a school with a cheeky professor that decides, hey, you know, instead of paying this fine, why don't we just go ahead and sue him?
Yeah.
And they would have to sue them for, I don't know,
future
damages or something.
But there are people suing the federal government for Schedule 1 as we speak, and it has to do with PTSD, epilepsy and cancer.
Yeah, I've seen some of that footage. They bring the kids out that were on it and then got taken off of it.
Yeah, exactly. If they're going to sit here and say, no, you have to use an approved medicine. Okay, well, I want you to show me the case study for drug X for epilepsy. Well, wait a minute. You've got 3 benefits and you've got 500 side effects. And the FDA approved that. Why? Why did they approve that? Oh, because they got money. Oh, I see. So the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, is not following its own pure medicine act, which technically states that no medicine, the medicine that you are going to buy cannot, the benefits cannot or the negative effects cannot outweigh the positive. So if you've got 38 side effects and it only treats 3 things, then that technically is an illegal drug.
Interesting. So there is a ratio of side effects to treat benefits?
Yes.
And if it doesn't meet that, okay, I see what you're saying. Wow.
But a lot of people don't push that. A lot of people don't call shenanigans on it. To quote, well, it being 420, to quote Super Troopers 2, fucking shenanigans. You know what I mean?
Like, hey, what's the name of that place with all the crap on the walls? And really
what's it called? I will pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
That's a great movie. But back to this scheduling thing and the drugs, like what was the last thing? It was the plaque psoriasis, right? We mentioned that in the last episode. Last time I saw that on television, it was plaque psoriasis and it treats one thing, and the side effects, I think it was like 9 or 10. It was a paragraph that popped up.
Oh yeah, but even at the end of the commercial, it says these are not all the side effects that are possible.
Yeah.
Meaning they literally ran out of time to tell you all the ways this drug will fuck you up. And yet they still get prescribed and they still get pushed and they still get... I'm more along the lines of I'd rather see someone scaly than see someone suffering from liver and kidney failure and have a vagina that grows on the back of their neck.
You know, I can recall that as early childhood, what was it? Maybe when I was 10 or 11 years old, the first time I had to get an antifungal cream. I no longer have a fungus, ladies and gentlemen. However, I was a kid who played outside in the creek, and eventually I got one under my toenail, and I had to take this cream. And I was a curious child, and I opened up the gigantic. Remember those pamphlets? I mean, they come with it, right? That like you unfold it, and it's like almost see-through, and it's huge, and it's such tiny writing. And I'm reading it because, well, maybe I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac. And I came across, and I started yelling for my mom, and I said, "What in the world is this?" Probably used some choice language at that point. I said, "What the fuck, Mom? It says right here that I can get herpes. How is this thing going to give me herpes?" And she goes, "Oh, now, honey, I think one person had herpes, and they have to record everything, and just to cover their own butts, they're going to list it in the piece of paper. But, you know, that's not entirely accurate. But that's not what they're saying on the TV. They're saying that this has happened during a trial. Like, they don't list those things because it's a possibility, because it did happen.
So let me give you a scenario of what actually fucking happened. Every single adult in North America has herpes. You know that, right? Have you ever had a cold sore?
Ah, right, that type.
No, answer the question. Have you ever had a cold sore on your lip?
I do not recollect, Senator. Yes, of course.
Liar. Of course, you have herpes. Now, the only difference is herpes on your lips is A, and herpes on your junk is B. Now, that being said, if you're taking an antifungal medication, and one of the side effects is you will get herpes, which basically means that this cream has a possibility to weaken your immune system so much that herpes A will then turn around and come into herpes for everyone. Your lips, your junk, your toes, your butthole, everything.
Whoa.
Yeah. You can get herpes in your butthole. You didn't know that, did you?
And we're here again, folks, with Dr. Jessie.
Oh, God. I wish I was a doctor, because I prescribe everyone just, you know what? Smoke a bowl, fucking relax. Life sucks. Put a fucking helmet on. Watch a fucking comedy every once in a while, and get over yourself. Period. You're religious? Smoke 2 bowls. Because you really...
You're either progressive or you're an accomplice. Think of Harvey Weinstein. Think of the people in his periphery, the people who knew what he was doing but chose not to act. Would you not call that an accomplice? If I had a friend who told me he was going to go rape somebody and I didn't speak out and he went rape that person, I had the means to report him, but I didn't. Therefore, I am now an accomplice. The LDS Church had an issue where their training camp for missionaries, there was a problem where there was a bed in the basement and somebody was being exploited by the head trainer. Well, how this came about, this head trainer, self-admittedly, was the Harvey Weinstein of the Mormon Church, if it came out. And so when the Mormon Church heard about it, they found out that how this came out was the woman interviewed him without his consent, that he was being recorded. So surely the Mormon Church heard this and they were disgusted and they were moved to reform. No. In fact, what they did is they moved to make it illegal to have one-party consent recorded. So instead of reforming, instead of trying to fix their problem, instead of trying to help and protect those who are being most exploited, the least amongst us, protect those with no money and no power, they chose to instead try to make it illegal for one-party consent. A true friend tells you what you need to hear to make you a better person, not what you want to hear because it makes you feel good. It's nice when our friends make us feel good, but it's more important to grow as a person. Feeling good about ourselves is how Democrats lost 1,000 legislative seats in 8 years. Feeling good about ourselves is how we've allowed the civil rights movement to then turn into a current system where segregation, income and wealth inequality between the races, and bank redlining is now worse than at any time Jim Crow was legal. Feeling good about ourselves is what makes us complacent. We shouldn't be worried about feeling good about ourselves. We should be worried about taking care of the least amongst us, looking out for the least amongst us. And we should be concerned with speaking out against the horrors and evils of those with all the money and all the power, exploiting those with no money and no power. You are either progressive or you're an accomplice.
This next segment,
you're getting fucked and you don't even know it.
and Jessie has some really important things to tell us about our tax system.
This one is so good. So good. It
Unleash the beast, man.
Well, it's like finger licking KFC good. Okay, so everyone's aware that there are certain states within our union that are legal, which means you can smoke marijuana. You can go to the corner store and buy an eighth of a bag or a dispensary. Unfortunately, I don't fucking live in one of those goddamn states like some people, quote unquote.
Don't be jealous.
I can't help it. But good news is
you're getting fucked and you don't even know it.
Really?
Yes. Now, the reason you're getting fucked and you don't even know it is a simple fact. Have you ever heard of the tax code provision 208-E? 280-E is fucking amazing. And this is the one reason and the one reason only that the federal government, i.e. Uncle Sam, i.e. the table scrap pilfering grab ass, i.e. Mr. Get Your Finger Out of My Butthole, i.e. Mr. God damn it, stop fucking with me on a daily basis, gets to fuck these people over. It's a simple fact that it says that anyone trafficking in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drugs cannot take deductions or receive credits on their taxes. And it was written in the 80s to prevent dealers and the like from writing off the cost of packaging their drugs. So Colorado, Washington, Maine, Washington, D.C., California, Nevada, they are paying upwards of 70 to 72% corporate tax.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because of
Whoa.
280E. Because they are taking money in for selling a product that is scheduled as Schedule 1. They cannot take credits and they cannot write off anything for their business based on that Schedule 1 product. So the government has taken in between $1.57 billion to $8 billion between 2012 and 2017.
The federal government now, right?
Yes. And basically what that means is you can't write off anything on your income tax if that money comes from that product. So now you're getting doubly fucked. Now California, the tax rate in California is high as 34.5% on marijuana. Colorado, it's 15%. So there's a big difference there. But in Colorado or anywhere else that it's legal, you got to think about it. You're running a business. You've got employees. You've got this. You've got that. You're looking at anything to write off on your taxes or any credits that you can take. But because you deal in a product that is classified as Schedule 1, you get no credits. You get no write-offs, and you just pay right the fuck out your ass to the federal government, and then fuck all you can do about it. You have to find the more creative ways to get around to the provision 280E. Now, if 280E could somehow be defeated, you would see mass legalization across the board, I think, federally. But right now, they've got more interest in not, because they're saying, well, we'll respect the states' sovereignty to say, we want legalized marijuana, or we want...
Because they're generating
marijuana.
revenue.
They are generating revenue. But on top of that revenue, they're able to then turn around and say, well, wait a minute, whoa, back up the fucking bus here. You're going to pay us $37 million on the $680 million you made, which is what California is projected to make. But on top of that, you're not going to be able to claim any credits or any deductions on your taxes because you deal in the Schedule 1 narcotic. It's one of those things where they get you coming, they get you going. So realistically, if they ever want to, if we, America, people that are listening, both of you, if we repeal 280E, the government loses its bonus. The government loses its little fuck you money, and then realistically,
no incentive to keep it scheduled. Yeah,
it's got exactly. It's got no incentive to keep it illegal. It's got more incentive to legalize it and tax it. And even if they tax it at 15%, I mean, for fuck's sakes, alcohol is only taxed at 9%.
Right.
No, 9 or 10, depending on the state that you're in. Weed's at 15, and that's the lowest. California's 34.5. So if they don't bring that tax rate down, they're not doing anything to kill that black market. They're actually encouraging the black market even more. And to every one of you right-wing fucking retards who believe in black and white, left and right, Christian values, this, that, the other, you want to gut the cartels, you want to stop the drug issues, you want to do this, you want to do that, legalize everything across the board, tax the shit out of it, period. Then you gut the cartel, you gut the black market, you gut the illegal trade, and you get money in return for people using these products that they're using already. And you're not paying money to incarcerate them, or you're not paying money to a private prison to incarcerate them. So it's a win-win-win-win across the board. If you take your wacky-ass morals out of the deal, you'd see that's a good goddamn equation.
You know, I just have to say, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't people in different sectors of the government that would have a say in, the backroom deals that go on to decide whether or not they're going to push something. that are convincing everybody not to do that and are convincing people not to change the schedule. I believe even Barack, in his last year, Mr. Obama tried to get somebody to take a look at that and reschedule it. And they denied him. They said, no, we're not going to actually do it. And you know what? I think it's the same concept as all of us screaming that we want them to end the wars, that we want them to stop occupying other countries.
That's right.
They can't stop making money.
No, but you
weapons dealer in the entire planet.
So
why the fuck would they ever stop war?
Fine, great. Sell your goddamn weapons. But realistically, I'll put a call out to everyone, and this is before Josh left our conversation. This is my point, is stop signing up. Stop agreeing to go. Stop going into the Air Force, the military, the fucking Navy, the fucking Marines, the this, that, the other. Stop being the goddamn patsies. You're poor. You're gonna die. Let these rich motherfuckers who want war, let them send their children for a while and watch how quickly they decide that, man, I can make $2 billion in Iraq, but I lost all my offspring. I don't know if that's really worth it.
You know,
I got $90 billion.
You know what I think would settle it is if they reinstituted the draft for good measure and they weight the scores of who gets plucked out of the draft by people on the top. The children from the top actually get their number gets entered in 2 and maybe even 3 times.
No, and I say this: you want to go fight a goddamn war? I'll say it this way: you want to fight a war on a foreign shore? You buy the mercs. You buy people that are willing to sell their lives to go fight in a foreign war.
Don't we already do that in order to avoid letting Congress sign off on shit? I mean, we're using what's Blackwater called now? XE. That's DeVos's.
That's fine, great. Fucking send Black. No. You send Blackwater in a 1944 fucking attack on fucking Normandy Beach. You send those motherfuckers and watch how quickly they can't buy mercs anymore.
That's not what we're fighting any longer, though. There is no more Normandy. This
doesn't matter. That's the same. No, that's the same goddamn principle. Let's just throw bodies at a goddamn machine gun until the machine gun melts. Vietnam, whether it's fucking Iraq, whether it's fucking Syria, I don't give a shit. That goddamn that Cheeto motherfucker. Cheeto motherfucker. My point is this, is that the poor are the fucking, it's the fuel for their fucking war machine, pure and simple. You want to fight a war in Syria over oil, over rare earth elements, rather this, that, the other, then that's fine. Be honest about it. Don't let the poor sign up. Don't play that patriotic card, because Syria is no direct threat to the United States. Osama bin Laden was not a direct threat to the United States. Yes, he may have hit the towers. Yes, he may have done this. He did it with CIA influence and CIA money. If there is a foreign country, North Korea or whatever, like play the remake of Red Dawn, and I wake up tomorrow and I see parachutes in the sky that don't look like American soldiers, I will pick up arms and I will defend my country. The U.S. in the last 25 years, 30 years, 40 years of war, it's been warfare in other countries. Vietnam, you know people from the Vietnam era that
Absolutely.
are, okay, they've been chewed up and spit out by a war machine that realistically was all horseshit. It was just to make more money to grow opium.
Yeah.
Anyone that says differently is blind.
You know, after the Syria debacle, where they're now coming out saying that most of the people had asthma on the ground, like there was something that happened, but it definitely wasn't a chemical attack, and it didn't come from Assad. And that's all that you need to know, that we jumped the gun and dropped a bomb and broke international law, and nothing is happening about it. And
he dropped 39 bombs. 39, not one, not
39.
2. 39 at a cost of like fucking $50 million.
Yeah, with all those bombs, we could put people through school. We could actually do a third of what Bernie Sanders was talking about.
And what did he take out? What did he take out? He took out fuck all. He took out an airbase that was empty, a military installation that was empty, and an anti-venom laboratory. Congratulations, you sweet potato Hitler motherfucker.
That reminds me a lot of when Clinton went after Kosovo and ended up, what did he knock out a children's hospital?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but hey, on
Bad
the good side,
Bad.
but on the good side, the company that makes those cruise missiles, their stock went up to $5 billion. Well, congratulations. He bombs people. The same country he bombed, he tweeted 3 years ago, oh, Obama needs to get congressional. Oh, he broke the law. Oh, he did this. He only launched 39 cruise missiles.
Mainstream media fails again.
So today, while I was at work, I was listening to Chris Hedges. He has a show on RT America called On Contact. And on Contact, he likes to produce these shows and interview different people who have a different take on America's society as a whole, or like an aspect of like socioeconomic issues. This time, he had a guy on there who is a professor of media studies at NYU named Mark Crispin Miller. And right off the bat, Mark Crispin Miller comes out of the gate saying basically that the Wall Street Journal is a CIA adjunct. And he continues to say the press has regressed into the media cartel with 6 transnational corporations owning it. It's very rare, in my opinion, that anybody ever in media mentions the fact that there's only 6 transnational corporations that own 90%, I think it is, of all of the media that we consume. Are you aware of that, Jesse?
Well, they don't want you to know that there's only 6 options, and the 6 options state the same thing as Sinclair does. They put out the memo that everyone follows and everyone says verbatim. I don't know. There is no left. There is no right. It's all bullshit.
You know, and another thing you can take away from it is, depending on the corporation that owns the company, owns the news outlet will not say anything that makes that company or that investor look bad, right? And so Jimmy Dore says it many times on his show that whenever you see a commercial on an MSNBC show for jets from Halliburton or a bunch of people like working in the field and then they produce a missile, that's not because they think your grandma wants to buy a missile. That's because they had to buy that ad space so they can make sure that those anchors don't say anything that disparages the war that's going on. And that's why those people are beating the drum for war.
And that's the thing is whether you are actively saying that you need to invade country X or you need to do this and the U.S. needs to bomb this person or that person or North Korea or this or it doesn't matter because you, like you said, on the back end, you have that subtle Lockheed Martin commercial or that subtle, in America, we believe that, freedom and this and that. And that's why we build Tomahawk missiles that can kill. A Tomahawk missile can hit a block and fucking wipe out a wedding of.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Canadian doing a Southern accent living in Georgia. And a bad one at that.
A bad one at that. But it is what it is. I mean, it's the same fucking thing.
Mark Crispin Miller went on to say, actually, he started to give a little bit of a history because, he's been studying the media for decades, right? He goes on to say that it's basically, you can trace all this back to losing classified ad revenue in the newspapers. As soon as ads started going into Craigslist's online presence started getting more and more apparent that people were going to the computer to try to find these things rather than looking it up in the newspaper, they started losing more money. And they lost money so much that he even referred to the New York Times as almost a pamphlet at this point because they fired, a couple of years ago, I think they dropped 130 some odd reporters. So they barely have any money left in that sector, and they're trying to get into the online sector so that they can keep the company alive, even though the medium is changing. And what happens is they become more compliant with the government and the CIA info that gets to control the narrative on the news. They basically can't say no because they don't have any money anymore. They have money, but they don't have the money they used to have that they could just, it was their fuck you money, basically. It was them saying to the government, no, we don't have to run your ads and we don't have to run this propaganda and get the hell out of our face. We don't need you. But now that they're losing all of that,
they're resorting to really bad behavior. And just recently, CNN came out and decided to talk about people doing horrible shit and like human trafficking and jihadists. And then they mentioned Jimmy Dore. And they said that Jimmy Dore, a comedian, by the way, who's kind of doing the God's work by talking about how bad the mainstream media is covering real important issues or not even covering them at all, they basically said that he was a propagandist trying to say that the Syrian gas attack was a hoax.
But it was.
Fact, he's out there saying that the storyline that they're feeding us about that is a hoax. He's not saying that there isn't a war in Syria. He's saying that the war in Syria has nefarious reasons, and he has plenty of data to spread out to explain why what we're seeing in the MSM is not really explaining the true situation. All they're doing is they're giving the narrative that's been fed to them by the government.
Well, so Jimmy Dore is actually proving the fact that the same information that was given to the U.S. public during the last Iraq war about weapons of mass destruction didn't exist. He's portraying that, and everyone's saying it's fucking bullshit.
It's
and
the
that's
same
the thing
that happened. It's
exactly
the WMD story all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing that bothers me is people don't listen. People don't. God damn it! If you are not a millionaire, stop fucking signing up for their bullshit wars. Stop. You know what? I get it. I was in high school and I had two options. Fucking go into debt and pay for college or go into military. You know what I chose? Neither. The reason being is I'm going to make minimum fucking wage or maybe a little bit fucking higher. But at the same time, I'm not struggling with debt and I'm not fucking struggling with PTSD. Stop going to war for these assholes. Make them send their robots. Make them send their fucking children. Make them send something else other than the poor. Stop signing up.
That's a slippery slope there too. Not to get back into the war machine discussion from earlier, but they did kind of stop at one point sending too many people, and it turned into them sending drones. And those drones are very precision. They're blowing up whole groups of people. They're killing tons and tons of what we're choosing to call collateral damage, what I call straight up murder.
It is murder. Stop participating in the war machine. Unless your name is fucking Walmart, unless your name is fucking Coke, unless your name is goddamn Rothschild, stop signing up for shit. Stop. Just stop.
So I went to Las Vegas this past week, and I have a Tesla, so, you know, not being able to charge at my destination, I charge at the supercharger, and I'll go in the morning or the afternoon, depending on, you know, convenience for me. And one of their superchargers in Las Vegas is in a really rundown part of town. Like, literally, there was a woman that was almost naked in the middle of the road, you know, yelling and screaming into the air. And, you know, another time I drove by, there was a woman crouching in the creek, and I kind of looked at her, and then I saw her urinate. So I admit I grew up rather privileged. You know, I'm a white male. You know, my parents weren't rich by any means, but that's a part of society that I rarely see. You know, I live in a relatively safe neighborhood in a good part of town, and I work in a good part of town, and I don't really ever go anywhere else. And this isn't the first time that I've ventured into the world and seen this kind of thing, but it's the first time that I've done it since being woke. And every time I think about politics, it brings me back to our education system. It's like, well, why do people do this? Well, when you've not been uneducated and then you've gone through life being beaten down from every direction, you're a ground down human being. And people make better choices when they're better educated. And when you have that kid who could have made it, but got lost in the sea of 25 or 30 kids in class, they don't make it. And if, you know, we had just had fewer kids in the classroom, i.e., you know, more teachers. We're all familiar with the No Child Left Behind, quote unquote, policy from Bush. And it's a great title, I'll admit, you know, No Child Left Behind, but the implementation of that title was just horrific. it's oh, your school sucks, so we're going to withdraw all the money from you. I mean, that's
it was a ruse to bring in private schools. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. In fact, in my personal opinion, banning private schools would be part of the solution, because
I totally agree with you on that.
Because all the rich people put money into their schools so their kids get a good education. If they could not put them in a good school, they would make for damn sure that the schools that they put their kids in would be good. And there's, a lot of arguments around that, but that's my opinion. If you had, 8 or 10 students per teacher, then teachers would be able to spend more one-on-one time with kids, or, one-on-one time at all. I don't know that any of my kids get one-on-one time with their teachers.
Yeah.
Maybe more so in high school when they have multiple teachers, and then they can do one-on-one a little bit. But people being ignored, and then they feel like, why should they pay attention to anything else? When they're given a shitty hand, a lot of people take the attitude of, well, shitty deal, why should I care? And back to being in Las Vegas in a rough part of town, there was a gentleman who, had no teeth, who's stopped me on the road and was talking to me. And generally I try to ignore that, but being woke, I was interested in what he had to say, and darned it, I tried to understand what he said, only got about half of it because he didn't have teeth. And he was talking about, church and God and Bible and not having money or food. And I'm standing there with my, Starbucks coffee, just outside a Tesla supercharger, where he obviously knew that I was going to, and he didn't even ask. I just pulled out my wallet and handed him a 20. I'm generally against panhandling, but he didn't ask. He didn't ask me for it, and I'm like, I'm standing here with all my privilege, being interested in someone, and then I just felt like I had to do it. You know what I mean?
There are some people though that they'll call that white guilt, and I've yet to decide whether or not that in and of itself intrinsically is bad, or if people just convert it to do bad things, I guess. Like they think they're helping, but actually they're making things worse.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about
privilege guilt, Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, gee, should I really have given him that? Whatever. I decided that it was heat of the moment, as it were, and it is what it is. And I generally don't do it, so forgive me. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and no need for forgiveness if I'm right. And I don't know. Part of what drives my activities for Our Voice is, well, I have the time and I do care, so I do the work.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people that don't have the time that do care and can't do the work because they're working 2 jobs or whatever it is. So I guess you could say my contributions to Our Voice are white guilt. I was visiting my parents. They recently moved to Vegas, and they are, in the twilight of their life. They're Republican. My mom complains about, the shortest path to their house is through a rundown neighborhood, so they don't go that way. And I can just kind of see the stark contrast of their mind being in, how do I put this? They're sheltered from the world as I was when I was growing up. It's kind of the whole. Yeah, have you seen that meme of the germs that look all rich out the window of all the other germs dying?
No.
It's a little funny meme, and the germs are saying, "Oh, how unfortunate," and then the caption is, 99% of germs are being killed, and the 1% are laughing at the rest of us, or something to that matter.
I see. Yeah.
It's gazing out the window and seeing the despair out there, and just going, "Oh, how unfortunate," and that's my parents' attitude toward it. And it's like they've made it and they don't care about anybody else. It's the whole. I remember Elizabeth Warren at a Democratic convention a couple of years back shouting, "The Republican agenda is clear. I've got mine. You're on your own." And I kind of see that in my parents' attitude. And then she asks, was there anything we can do about cyberbullying? And I said, well, if we had 8 kids per teacher, then bullying would almost completely evaporate. And I'll ask her, it's like, is education important to you? Yes. Is raising taxes for better education important to you? It's like, well, you don't want to raise taxes. Okay, so I guess you don't want education bad enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is kind of interesting that I don't know, that the way I used to look at it was paying taxes in the country that you live in is like paying a mortgage or your rent, or you're paying into the thing that you're a part of in order to keep it going. Otherwise, where the hell is the money going to come from?
Yeah, I remember. So I got married when I was 18 or 19, and had kids right away. I had my first kid right before I turned 20. So I was a teen dad. Ooh. Or no, wait. I was just after I turned 20, so I just missed being a teen dad.
Oh. But you couldn't drink.
Yeah, I was a father and I couldn't drink. It was by choice though.
Yeah.
I didn't knock up a chick and then married her. I married her and then knocked her up. Well, in the background there is I was Mormon and I couldn't have sex with anybody until I was married. So I was kind of eager to get married, if you know what I mean.
Right. The major flaw in that rule.
So eager to have sex that I didn't go on a Mormon mission. And that, so I was kind of like, I was unrighteous in that I wasn't a missionary, but I was righteous in that I got married so I could have sex.
Yeah, I guess it even.
Anyway, but there was that slim moment in between getting married and being an adult, or being an adult on my own didn't last very long, but I remember someone saying, I don't have kids, I don't want to have to pay my taxes to education.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to be surrounded by stupid people.
Bingo. And not even stupid, just uneducated, right? Ignorance is different from stupid.
Yeah. So obviously education isn't the end-all be-all solution, but like this whole money and politics things where everything seems to come back to money and politics and corruption. When you talk about social, anything not politics, it all comes back to education. You can't talk about jobs without education. You can't talk about housing without education. It's like people get a 30-year mortgage and don't truly understand the consequences of that.
Yeah.
And I think if people understood, there would be fewer 30-year mortgages. And that goes back to education. It's like I went to high school and I was never taught civics and I was never taught finances. And those are the two
really important things for being an adult. Yeah.
And I think Josh is right when he says that our legislatures are the architects of our demise because they don't want an educated public because that's how they're in power. So they do everything they can to avoid certain things such as civics and education.
And that could possibly explain why it's been wiped out of the books, the public school system. I mean, maybe they're still teaching that in private schools, who knows, but yeah.
And it's funny how you can get a lot of people to agree that education is important, but as soon as you bring up better funding for it, crickets.
Yeah.
And it's something that's so intrinsically tied into everything we do, and yet teachers are on strike because things are so bad, and even that's not like heavy in the news.
I mean, it's nice that they're speaking on it somewhat, but really, I mean, the alternate media is covering it hard. They're actually going down there and filming it, where I barely see anything on the regular news. Yeah.
Well, when I ultimately run for whatever office I run, I would unapologetically say we need a quintuple of our education budget. Not double, not triple, not quadruple, quintuple times 5. Double teacher salaries, just straight up double, and double the number of teachers. Now that's a quadruple right there. And what's the quintuple? What's that extra X? Well, that's the administrative overhead because you'll need more buildings and more administrative staff, etc. But a class of 25 suddenly becomes a class of 12 or 13, and the teacher who's barely scraping by suddenly isn't barely scraping by. And when you worry less about how you're going to make ends meet, you can put more effort into your teaching. And gee, Corey, where are you going to get that money from? I'm going to raise everyone's taxes. It's pretty damn simple.
You could maybe talk them into pulling a little out of the military.
Oh, hey, I'm all for.
You wouldn't even have to raise any taxes if you did that. Just take 2%. Done.
Yeah. You know what? Taboo. Raise taxes. Boom.
Yeah.
For education. Just call it hashtag taxes for education.
Yeah. I like it.
But my wife convinced me that I can't run for office while my kids are still in school for various reasons. But it's good that I'm preparing now because in 10 years, world. You ain't never felt a wrath like you felt that of the wrath of Corey.
Keep working on that slogan.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely need to work on a bunch of things, but certainly, am I going to run for state legislature? Am I going to run for Congress? I don't know yet. I'll figure that out when I'm closer to the mark. But
right
for
on,
now,
man.
I'm just keeping status quo, my family life, and putting my free time into good causes where I can.
Hear, hear, sir.
So the FBI said they had a signed confession from Noor, the wife of Omar Mateen that shot up Pulse nightclub. So here's the problem with that, is that the written confession they had said that she knew that he was looking at Pulse. She knew that he was going to go to Pulse. And yet he went to somewhere else, Disney something or another. And then when there, he realized that they were heavily armed. He wanted nothing to do with it. So then he went to another one, and they can tell by his search history from his fucking phone. So he goes to another one, sees that it's heavily armed, it wants nothing to do with it. So he searches another one. And then from there, he finds Pulse. And then guess what? Where it's written, there's a written confession saying, I knew my husband was going to Pulse. It was written in the goddamn... The guy who runs the lie detector test. He didn't give her a lie detector test, and he's the one who fucking wrote it in his handwriting, which came out in forensics. So this is the same FBI that's saying that we have collusion. Russia, not the elites, not the oligarchy that's in charge of the ruling class that's in charge of our country, but it was Russia. The same FBI is trying to frame a woman just so that they can look good and say, ha! At least we got something. We fucking failed miserably on trying to track this guy and trying to figure out if he was radicalized or whatever it was that they failed at. And so they're trying to save face by throwing an innocent woman under the fucking bus. This is the FBI. The FBI is not a friend to the working class. The FBI is not a friend to regular people. The FBI is a friend to the established order that would much rather put you in prison so that they can look good than give a shit about violating your rights. And yet, we have supposedly these rights that have been handed down by God. If you ask any right-winger, gun-toting right-winger about the Second Amendment, they'll tell you that these have been given by God. And yet, why is it the FBI is allowed to blatantly lie and then have a woman think that she's going to be separated from her son for life? And here it is. The FBI picked this woman up at 4:30 in the morning. And they told her in front of her son that dad is dead. Your husband's dead. This kid, to this kid, it's dad. In front of her fucking son. And they didn't even get the bullshit written confession until 11 hours of interrogating her after being awoken at 4:30 in the morning and telling her son, or telling her in front of her son, the dude's dead. So traumatizing her, traumatizing their son. And even then, they had to make up a bullshit confession to take to court. It's not like they just said, hey, we got this. Haha, what are you going to do now? They said that effectively and then took her to fucking court and tried to use it as evidence. The FBI's a bunch of fucking liars, people. They are not here to help us. And so because this woman who's battered, who's a victim herself, the FBI doesn't give a shit about that. Doesn't give a shit that Omar Mateen beat the fuck out of her. They only give a shit about trying to save face and make themselves look good. This is our government, folks. And this is what we need to change. Now, does that mean that since I'm a socialist, that this is the government that I want to push? Fuck no. This is the shitty part of government that I want to fix. We have cronies at the top of the government that ruin it, that purposely make it so it's broken, that it doesn't work, that then say government doesn't work, and then they point to what they've sabotaged as proof that it doesn't work. Why? So then that they can privatize it. You sabotage so you can privatize, and then you can get a little bit of money in your pocket from these private corporations, and then they rake in the dough at the taxpayer expense. The FBI is not your friend. Remember that. If it ever comes up, the FBI is not your friend.
So something else that that Miller was pointing out was that Trump is actually enabling the press to get up on its high horse and beat down on his lies. So Trump goes out there, he tweets something. He tweets something that maybe he even knows is completely full of crap. The press then makes that their goal, as at least a third of the information that we're going to get today in the news is about that tweet that Trump sent, or about that comment that Trump made, or some other asinine thing that piece of shit Cheeto did. The media then gets to beat on its high horse and say, see, look at POTUS. He's a dirtbag. We can't allow him to continue like this. And then they interview people that say, yes, POTUS is a dirtbag. And they say, how big of a dirtbag is he? And they say, he's a really big dirtbag. Hey, don't you love our reporting? We're the ones who are telling you that POTUS is a dirtbag. And that's how they go on. And it allows the CIA and the FBI operatives, or the formers anyway, to show up and look like the heroes. Because they're also avoiding addressing the corporate coup d'etat in slow motion that's going on and right in front of us. They're not talking about us actually having straight up genocide going on in Yemen that we're backing. They're not talking about the pipeline that Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Israel actually want to have go through Syria, and Russia and Syria are trying to beat that back. In fact, I think China joined them as well. They don't talk about all these stories because they're too busy allowing Trump to scream out loud horrible shit so that they can say all that shit was horrible. Let's all hate him.
Okay, so let me put it this way. I am done. I am officially on Cheeto fucking overload. I don't give a fuck what this fucking sweet potato Hitler, fucking Cheeto Nazi motherfucker, whatever you want to call him. I just don't give a shit what he does from this point forward.
It is okay. It is absolutely apparent that you are mad about them showing too much of the orange Cheeto and you not giving a crap about the next thing that he does. Because what he's doing is he's really running a circus. He's running a circus. It's like he's doing interference, right, for the deep state to be able to go behind our backs and pass. They're influencing legislation that goes through that our representatives are having to vote on. They're increasing military budgets. And the CIA is basically acting as a pimp in all of the countries that we occupy.
Yes,
you might wonder, how exactly are they acting like a pimp? Well, you have to understand how pimps operate. And just to give you a very brief lowdown, they enslave their captive women that they call hoes, but I won't, in the same way that the CIA enslaves their captive countries. So they go in, and the first thing they do is they disrupt stuff, right? They go in, they disrupt things, they start to influence insurgent groups, they give them a little bit of money, some weapons maybe, and say, hey, you should go do this. All in the name of, well, they were probably going to do it anyway, so now we can bust them, right? But except they let it go through. And when they let it go through, that causes a destabilization of the country. After they've destabilized the country, they also go in and they start to provide aid. And they kiss them and they love them and they say, I'm really sorry about that. Hey, you can always come to us and we'll be the ones who take care of you. And that's the point where we're installing a puppet to run the country. And that puppet is now the liaison from that group that we've taken control of to talk to the United States and say, what would you like me to do now, Daddy? So basically the CIA goes in there and they pimp the country out. They both attack the country and then they soothe the country afterwards. So the country feels like they have nowhere else to go and they feel completely hopeless and they end up just turning into drones. And that is the same way that people engage in enslaving human beings.
Exactly. That's why I said, as it stands right now, I have no respect for any country that follows the U.S.'s drug fucking cartel bullshit. At all. None. Zero. Uruguay. Uruguay was the first country to tell the United States, you know what, go fuck yourself. We're going to legalize weed across the board. What are you going to do? You're not going to send us money? We don't give a shit because you weren't sending us money in the first place. Uruguay legalized across the board. Medical, legalization, all it, whatever you want to say, they legalized it. They told the U.S. to go fuck themselves. And the U.S. did put a lot of shit on Uruguay by trade deficits and this and that. And it had to do with the simple fact that, well, how dare you say that marijuana is not bad? We're not going to stand for that. Well, Amsterdam is the same thing. They told the U.S., go fuck yourself. There's nothing wrong with marijuana. And they did. And, you know, there was trade, there was deficits, there was this, there was that against Amsterdam. And Amsterdam was like, we don't give a shit. We just really don't care. We will provide for ourselves. We will do for ourselves. But you look at South America. South America, they adopted the U.S. policy.
Well, not the entire continent, but most of those countries,
yes, they did.
No. You've heard of all of the unrest in Honduras. In fact, that was part of Hillary Clinton's job. She was Secretary of State, was to get Honduras to fall in line and to get Venezuela to fall in line.
Do you know why Honduras and Venezuela? Wait! Stop! Do you know why Honduras and Venezuela would not fall in line?
Because they're oil rich.
Exactly, and they were like, wait! If we take your stance on drugs, and then we let you come in and rape us for oil, but you're not going to pay us for that oil. That's what it was. That's exactly what it was.
That's how they push all these trade agreements. And by the way, they're
not
trade agreements. They're actually they're contracts with corporations so that the corporations get the chance to be able to sue whole countries for future revenue losses whenever the people of that country say, we don't want you here or we don't want you to frack. On that note, we're going to have to go ahead and cut.
Yay!
But unfortunately, we won't be coming back after that. So we're going to have to go ahead and sign off here. This has been Chris Guru, way up in Maine.
And Jessie Cheney, way down in the South. Wish you all a happy 420, even though it's a day late. And even if you don't live where I live and you can smoke a bowl for me. Smoke a bowl and draw a fucking unicorn. Send it
by the time you hear this, happy Earth Day as well.
That too.
Peace, dude.